for pledge of allegiance.
Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence for a sick, handicapped, recently departed, and military personnel of our community. Roll call.
Mr. Henderson?
Here.
Mr. Petroselli? Mr. Gallarducci?
Here.
Mr. Colosimo?
Here.
Mr. Verducci?
Here.
Mrs. Schneider? Mr. Shashalski?
Here.
Mayor Copeland? Here. Solicitor McDermott?
Here.
Engineer Brett?
Here.
I'm Joe Coward. Chief King?
Here.
Assistant Chief Maglin?
Here.
And Director Miller?
Here. On that.
If they're open, if they can hear you.
We have no one present that wants to speak from the audience or the public. Anybody online that cares to address council? Going once? Twice? Go on to regular agenda. Need a motion to approve the July 12th, 2021 regular meeting minutes as submitted. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Oh, I need a second, I'm sorry.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. I need a motion to approve the August 2021 bill list.
I'll move. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. I need a motion to approve the August 13th, 20th, 27th, September 3rd, and 10th, 2021 payrolls. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion to adopt resolution number 2021-18, a resolution of the Borough of Bridgeville, Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, appointing a representative and an alternate to the governing board of the Chartiers Valley District Flood Control Authority.
I'll move. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. I need a motion to adopt resolution number 2021-19, a resolution of the Borough of Bridgeville, Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, assuming responsibility for erecting, maintaining, and removing a temporary event banner over Route 50 for the Bridgeville South End Rotary Club Chili Cook-Off that is to be installed September 18th, 2021, and removed October 18th, 2021.
So moved. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Should I abstain since I'm in the Rotary?
Yeah.
I should? I'll abstain.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries. I need a motion to authorize the solicitor to prepare an ordinance that would designate a no parking loading zone on Station Street for a distance of 26 feet west of the intersection with Taylor Way. Note that this area would be in front of 336 Station Street, Samuel Screen House. I have a motion.
What's the idea to do this?
So,
We all know what this is.
yeah, for some context, there was some complaints that trucks couldn't get into the alleyway behind the hardware store
I figured.
because of parking that was there. So there was complaints made.
Several.
Yeah, several complaints
years.
made. And
This is eliminate parking, full-time parking, but allow for like
unloading.
unloading and picking up stuff from Sammy's and that stuff.
And for the record, Sammy, this has been discussed with Sammy's and they are actually okay with it. We've gained some parking across the street behind the bank. And we have the metered parking lot behind it.
We'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. I need a motion to reject all offers that we received for the Warner Street Stormwater Slope Stabilization and Retaining Wall Improvement Project. Bids were open on August 5th and came in way above what we anticipated. Yeah. So moved.
It's a shame, but we gotta do it someday,
We have a motion by Bruce. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. I need a motion to accept the resignation of Mr. Lawrence Lennon as a Planning Commission effective July 26, 2021.
Sadly, I'll move.
Do I have a second?
Sadly, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can we send in a letter of thanks for all of these things? We'll be sorely missed. And we have an opening. So anyone listening, if you're interested, get a hold of Joe down here or any one of us and demonstrate your interest. So it's an important
Put an ad
background.
on the website for that.
I can do that this week.
I need a motion to authorize a disbursement of $7,987.50 from the Capital Project Fund to LM&R Excavating LLC for partial payment number 4 and final in the McLaughlin Run Park Flood Improvements Project.
I so move.
Do I have a second?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Need a motion to authorize a disbursement of $5,079.09 from the sewer fund to Jet Jack Incorporated for partial payment number 3 and final of the backwater valve contract Phase 3 project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion to authorize the execution of change order number 1 and final for the backwater valve contract Phase 3 with Jet Jack Incorporated and resulted in a decrease of $16,218.20 based on final measurements of in-place quantities and work performed.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion to authorize the execution of change order number 2 and final for the Bower Hill Road Stormwater Improvements Project with Jet Jack Incorporated that resulted in an increase of $7,006.35 for additional paving along the frontage of Bower Hill Road and the final measurements of in-place quantities. Note that the total cost of this project was $102,346.42, and we did receive a GEDF grant in the amount of $100,000. So the borough's share of this entire project was $2,346.42.
And I'm sure if I may, Mr. Chairman, that this change in order will be approved.
Yes.
You did a nice job, David.
Yeah, absolutely.
For all those houses and that stuff, finally, no gravel.
That's all.
I make a motion.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion to deny the 4 requested change orders dated July 6, 2021 from Ski Ready Site Development and Paving Company Incorporated for the Phase 2 McLaughlin Run Park Improvements Project as per the July 13, 2021 recommendation of the Borough Engineer.
I'll move.
For sure, I second that.
I do have a question, Joe. I know that there's a lot of different bushes and things that weren't replaced and things like that, and that's why we're holding the money, is that correct?
Yeah, there's a punch list, and that's one of his
It's one
requests
of them.
for a change order is plants that were stored, died, and he doesn't want to replace those. There's a couple of trees that he insisted he put in, and he obviously did, and they died. So it's on the punch list to be retained. One of these is a discrepancy in measurement. He says he put 20 more feet of fencing in, fencing, obviously Quan measured was 200 feet, not 220. It's been measured multiple times, and just want the other 20 feet. So we reviewed each one of these. The punch list item, you can't get paid twice for something. They was stored material. He was supposed to do.
The only big punch list remaining is the bushes. And there's 17 bushes that really are under warranty. It's rather simple. Replace them under a 1-year warranty, but he wants to pay for them again.
Is there a possibility that we won't have enough money, or we have plenty of money for that?
We're retaining that $16,000. So there's a final pay request that we go into and basically he submits. It's for 16 grand.
And he signed the final change order already, reducing quantities, closing out all the items. This came after the fact.
Yeah, when he planted the trees, he shouldn't have planted the trees. It was like the wrong time.
But they've been replaced and the new ones took.
Yeah.
It's just a couple of bushes. It's rather
And it's small.
Yes, it's rather simple.
Okay, thank you.
We have a motion motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. I need a motion to authorize the borough engineer to provide engineering services to develop permitting documents for submission to the Pennsylvania DEP for the proposed Chartiers Park Playground Improvements Project at a cost not to exceed $8,500.
I'll move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. I need a motion to authorize the disbursements of the following real estate tax refunds as a result of changes in assessments. Number one, in year 2020, parcel 255-S-142 in the amount of $162.43 to Andrew Helper. Number two, the year 2019, parcel 255-S-142, the amount of $130.58 to Andrew Helper. And number three, year 2020, parcel 254-E-328 for the amount of $68.90 to Michael and Kalina Diltz. Number four, year 2020, parcel 254-N-18, the amount of $76.70 to Timothy and Julie Dunlap.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. I'd like to welcome our county representative, Tom Stewart, to the meeting.
Hi, everyone.
You want to address us at some point?
No, just come to, it's good to be back, see everyone again.
I appreciate you being here.
No, no problem, happy to be here.
Number 16, I need a motion to accept and pay any commission due July 2021 real estate tax collector.
I'll move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Need a motion to acknowledge receipt of the June 2021 Treasurer's Report.
I'll move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Need a motion to accept the July 2021 Police Report.
So moved. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have added an item to the agenda. Need a motion to authorize the second and final payout in the amount of $65,284.73 to Youngblood Paving Incorporated for the 2021 roadway improvement program.
I so move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. That just came in today, so we added that to the agenda. Thank you anyway for that. Pardon?
Well, appreciate it.
Yeah, good. Okay, let's move on to committee reports. Administration, Virginia Schneider is not here, so we'll pass on that. Finance, Joe Verducci.
Okay, the budget for 2022 is starting to get underway this month. We would actually like to have a finance committee meeting the last week of August. I know we are trying to find those dates, so if we can finalize that in the near future, please let myself and Joe know when a good time would be. As far as the fund balance, part of the discussions are going to be on the capital project fund to decide on how we're going to handle some of the surplus. So obviously going towards some of the different projects that we have going. We are right on pace as far as this time of the year, right before all the tax money comes in for the 2021 budget to actual. We did receive a $10,000 grant that Senator Robinson helped us with from Noble Environmental. And the flood hazard mitigation grant, I'm sure we'll get more into detail with that with Joe, but we are underway in regards to seeing the step 2 of 22, it seems like, but we're on our way to getting that done. As far as the Workers' Comp Safety Committee, they met and are on the final stages of being able to get the borough approved for a 5% discount on the firefighters policy that's up for renewal in October, so that'll be a nice thing. And last but not least, the finance software has been starting to work in July, and there's still some bugs, but things are going very smoothly with that. That's enough.
Thanks, Joe. Any questions for Joe? Thanks. Parks and Rec, Joe Colosimo.
Okay, excuse me, you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Couple of small, not the small, but important. Right now, we're tentatively have the Halloween parade scheduled for October 30th. Fire department's on board and trying to get Stevie Vance formed. It's waiting on the time to see if what money if the band can go. So that's a good thing. We received a $10,000 grant from the Noble Environmental Company, which is, I guess, the parent company of County Hall. $10,000 grant for the fitness trail down in Chartiers Park. I'd like to thank County Hauling and Devin Robinson for helping out with this grant. And last but not least, I asked Cheryl Valentino to check on the park rentals. And that as of Friday, we had 61 rentals so far this year. We have still had August, well, September. But the biggest thing in the last 7 years is 2015, we had 71. So I think we're doing pretty good compared to the last few years, or the COVID years. The rentals are really up and it's just good. Parks in great shape, so. That's all I have for now.
Any questions for Joe? All right, thanks, Joe.
Okay.
Public Works, Nino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, you got the report. I want to make a comment on that, the ramp for Janeway. I think it's a wonderful job. That would be a big help. That's the entire paragraph here. If you want to third paragraph, it's all very extremely good. The patch on Barrier Road and et cetera, et cetera. So it's very interesting, busy month, and a lot of the good things happen. All of the big favor for our resident, and that's all I can say. Public Works is doing a good job. And with the engineers, some of these things, a lot of these things, so very pleased with them. Thank you.
Any questions for Nino? Thanks, Nino. Public Safety, Bruce Gallarducci.
Yes, the only thing I have to report, Mr. President, is the Civil Service Board met last Wednesday evening to extend the police officers list for another year with the expectation of one officer retiring after the first of the year. So we extended it, and there's 2 names that are left on the list. So next year we'll have to look at doing another list, but at this time we have somebody who once the officer retires. That's all I have.
Any questions for Bruce? Good. Thank you, Bruce. Appreciate it. Mayor, any comment?
No report.
Thanks, Mayor. Police Chief, Jack Kim.
No report.
Thank you, Chief. Solicitor, Solomon Carroll.
Thank you. I don't have anything to add in my review.
Any questions for the solicitor? Borough Engineer, Kevin Brett.
We did provide our written report dated August 5th. Just a couple comments on the report. On the wall, we did have 9 contractors request specs, 6 bid, so you got a good turnout on the bids. Talking with contractors, we put in our memo with the steel prices are up tremendously. Walls are odd projects. We often have to bid them multiple times till we get the right timing, kind of the right pace as far as material cost. This is an odd one because you have the railroad, you have utility poles that need held, and you have utilities in an alleyway to protect. So we need contractors that need work more than one piece. Obviously, the spread in the bids, to give you an idea, was $600,000. So when you go from low to high with the 600, your road bids, in the area, they may vary between low and high by maybe 10%. This area will vary by 100%. So, there's a pretty big gap between the bids. I wouldn't lose faith, though, that you're not going to get a bid that comes in online. We may tweak a few things, though, just because of timing. If the wall gets built over the winter, we could bid the paving work with next year's paving and take that out of this contract, because everybody that did it, other than Independent, doesn't do paving. So that may be a way to save $50,000, for instance. So there's a few things like that we'll work with Joe on timing. I would put this out for January. Let's watch steel prices for a little bit and see. Steel right now is the highest since 2008, I heard the other day, just before the crash in 08. And then it came down dramatically right after that. So, we don't want an economic crash, obviously, but hopefully steel straightens out a little bit. You just can't get it right now, is what I'm told. Even if you get foreign steel, you just cannot get it in on anything. And that's why the liberals are difficult right now, because of that. So, we'll watch it over the next 4 months. And when the time is right, we'll put it back out in the field over the winter. So,
In reality, it wouldn't have been able to be done until next spring anyway.
yes, it would have been probably 14, 16 weeks just to get the steel in, so we're probably not going to lose it any time. Lumber was similar, 3 or 4 months ago. You couldn't get anything in now. You go to 84, you go to Home Depot, the stacks are getting bigger and bigger, so once that happens, the prices will go back to normal. So, any other questions on the memo? A bunch of the construction projects got completed, which was good. Road program got buttoned up other than one little punch list item. We'll go pick up that completed, so.
On the grant that got denied, is there any way that we could change it to possibly be considered?
Warner Avenue, reapplying for Warner.
Yeah, I think all grants this year, we tweak them a little bit and resubmit them because I expect the grants to get a lot of funding over the next 12 months, similar to 2 years ago.
Well, I spoke to Jason Ortega, and he was encouraging it for that reason. And Joe and I were thinking, well, what else could we do? But
This may be our golden opportunity.
right.
Yeah, I think we'll tweak it for, talk a little more about how this is going to help not slide onto the railroad for transportation as well as protecting the coast. Not just for retaining the road, because the way the last one then kind of talks a lot about retaining the roads, maybe we'll include it, it's going to protect the transportation network, stuff like that. So we can work on the wording a little bit there. But I do think it's going to be a better year, again, for this
So
road.
when are those GEDF grants due? Are they due soon?
The next round should be coming out.
It should be opening soon. It hasn't opened yet.
Oh, that's what I'm
Yeah,
thinking.
it should be open November.
I think it's coming up sooner.
Yeah, I think.
So if that's the case, this may be a good thing. This will be our 4th time submitting for Warner Avenue, so.
And we've gotten other ones that were more pressing. Now Warner can be the one.
And we're on an issue though, when we budgeted $375,000 for this project, lowest bids at almost $700,000. It's not within our means. So if this is an avenue that we could bump up those engineering estimates for grant applications, so that maybe this is a lifeline.
true.
So that's all I'm thinking.
Yes. Yep. And then I did hand out, I'll do this quickly, on the MS4 training. Handed out a packet. I'll go through a couple of the slides, not all of them. For MS4s, you obviously do have an MS4 permit. You've had one for years because you have separate storm sewer and sanitary sewers. This is your storm sewer permit. On page 2, it lists out the MCMs 1 through 6. Once you have a written plan on how you address each one of them. MCM 1 on page 3 is your public education, outreach, things like this evening, training in the public. Number 2 is public involvement. Obviously, in the last 18 months, public involvement's been very difficult. Most of the communities, they had community days, things like that. They would talk about stormwater, group, pamphlets. Well, last year, none of the community days really happened. So we'll pick back up on that over the next year. is MCM number 3, illicit discharge detection and elimination. That's where your outfalls go into the stream. They get tested 20% per year over a period of 5 years, and those results get sent in every year. Construction site runoff, that's your building permit items, that you make sure everybody has ENS when they're doing building renovations, things like that. Number 5, MCM number 5 on page 4 is post-construction. If somebody would do a parking lot expansion, they may put a rain garden in, do something to treat the water as it comes off the parking lot before it gets released into the stream. And the last one is MCM number 6, which is your pollution prevention, good housekeeping, and that's your facilities. That's your parks, that is your borough building here, police garage, things like that. And it's how you store everything. It's how you still store salt, oil, anything that you do your daily activities. You have a written plan for that as well. Your annual report is due September 30th. We will have it prepared and it will be submitted. They do have a $500 renewal fee every year now. That used to be every 5 years, now it's every year. DEP inspections, the ones from 2018 to today are back underway. The difference between now and 5 years ago is you get about a day or 2 notice from DEP, and then they come in. We have a bunch of communities that are getting inspected over the summer here now. John Galinsky from our office will come out and do a walkthrough, check the paperwork, and do a quick review of the garage to make sure everything's in order. Because we do expect, if you haven't been inspected yet, and I can't remember if you were before COVID hit, I don't think you were, that you'll be inspected sometime over the next year. And again, it's just time. We used to get a month to make sure everybody's okay. The last 3 that were done in the last 2 weeks, we got 2 days. So we had to go pick up everybody's binders, make sure everything's in there, and then meet the public works real quick, do the garages, tidy up. They've been fine. They just have a checklist they go through. But we still want to make sure everything's consistent with that. So they have to have them done by 2023 with this permit cycle. So that's why we know if you haven't been done, you're going to get done. So we want to make sure we're up to date on that. Next is PRPs. You do have a permit that was issued in 2018. It has a pollution reduction plan. You received a grant to put in the oil or grid separators. They call them storm scepters, to remove trash, things like that from the stormwater. We have a couple locations you're putting those in. If you remember when a couple years ago we reviewed your plan, one of the things that your plan has is you've got a street sweep, and you have to have a $400,000 street sweeper. We're going to get your plan switched to do some more of these that are structural and not do the $400,000 street sweeper, because you have to weigh the product, and it's impossible to pick up the amount that's in the PRP plan as it exists. 2023 application, you have to do another PRP update. They will be structural elements and street sweeping. Although I highly recommend it, keeps the town clean, it picks up trash. It's a good BMP, it's just not a good PRP because it costs too much money. The same way cleaning catch basins, people include that. If you clean out a catch basin, you have to wait and prove the amount you took credit for. It's the only 2 things you have to weigh. Everything else is, if you build it at a percentage of reduction, you get credit for it. And we just do an as-built, and then it's done, we move to the next year. When you do street sweeping or catch basin cleaning, you have to actually prove that you've got that much material off, and that's nearly impossible. So we will work with Joe to get that tweaked, and then we're working right now to come up with some good suggestions on what BMPs to build and where. So we'll go back to work with that. Any questions on that? Hopefully that wasn't it. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Any questions for engineer? All right, fire chief break. We got Mike here, right?
Yeah. So last month we had 51 calls. I want to remind the public that on Thursdays we have food trucks. Check our Facebook page. Our sign is currently getting worked on. I mean, there's 1 or 2 last little things. Parts were kind of tricky to come by. That's why it's been down. So I think it's been working on Thursdays and whatnot. So check the sign or check our Facebook page and come down and support the food truck and the fire department. That's all I got.
Any questions for Mike? Southbridge EMS,
We are watching the Delta variant of COVID. We have seen a significant uptick in patients that are experiencing symptoms and testing positive. We've even had 2 of our own employees. We skated out pretty much the whole year without anything, and then within the last month, we've had 2 employees test positive for the Delta variant, and they were both vaccinated. So it's pretty wicked. So I would be safe out there because it is happening. Another thing for EMS is we killed a truck. We had a catastrophic failure in one of our ambulances, so we had to do an immediate replace, find a new one to replace it. So that kind of added some financial debt to the service that we weren't anticipating, but we did find one, so we were lucky enough to stumble across that. I don't know if we tried to buy a new car or used car lately, there's nothing out there. But we did luck upon one, so we are going to get that one, put it in service, so that service to Bridgeville is sustained and uninterrupted and keep going forward. But just a note to the board, those ambulances are $200,000 these days, so we're running 3 to 4 of them, so it's quite an expense. So that's all I have.
Thanks, Dan. Any questions for Dan? Okay, do we have a historical society report? Bridgeville Library. Here. Bridgeville Park Authority representative here. Planning Commission.
I'll be real quick. I'd just like, on behalf of the Planning Commission, thank Mr. Lennon for all his time on the Planning Commission. As you all know, he's maybe really hard to replace in that position. Justine did a report. I passed it out. You guys all have Justine's report. The gist of the meeting that we just had was our engineers presented, updated all the flood projects that Bridgeville's been doing and where they stand and the effect, and then also going over their flood mitigation plan for McLaughlin Run. There was basically 3 different options, and each option had 3 phases, and phase 1 is basically the same across the board, and we are recommending that, which I see on your agenda, that you proceed with phase 1 of the options.
Did we put that for a motion to, we need a motion to?
They made a motion to recommend to council that we proceed with implementing the seeking grant funding.
We don't need a motion to.
But I think tonight was on our agenda, basically, hey, we received that and directed our engineer and myself to seek grant money.
Okay.
Or saying, hey, we don't like that.
Any questions for Mike? Okay, Borough Manager, thanks, Mike. Borough Manager Joe Cal.
A couple things, as Councilman Verducci said, the borough was awarded about $1.2 million in a FEMA hazard mitigation grant for a buyout of 8 properties on Baldwin and Margaret Street. We received notice back on July 13th, so coincidentally, right after the last flood. It would have been nice to have that news a week earlier, but we got it the week after. With that, we've been working with FEMA to get all the contracts taken care of so that we can proceed rapidly with it. They tell us we're about 3 to 5 months out before we can start acquiring properties through the project. We did have a number of residential properties that appraisals were already completed, so working with our FEMA liaison, we've already sent offer letters to those 8 properties saying, hey, you were provided with an appraisal in 2019 based off of an appraised value on your property pre-flood in 2018, and there was a set value for each property that the grant was awarded on. Those 8 properties received their offer letters. They have 2 weeks to make a decision and respond back to us on how they want to proceed. So hopefully when we come back to you next month, we'll have an update on how many people are in the program and how many are out. Today of the 8, I have received confirmation back from 3 of them saying that they're going to participate. The 9th property, which is the Italian Club building, is under historic review, mainly because as a social club status, it wasn't along the architecture of the building, it was because of the background of the building. While that's going on, an appraisal is being completed of that building that we should have within the week. Once that appraisal done, that gets sent to FEMA, and then we'll get their graces if we want to, if that matches what they were in line with the grant, to present an offer to the Italian Club to go forward with that project. That funding for the Italian Club is separate from the $1.2 million, so we don't hold up the 8 residential properties. Our PEMA liaison separated that project, so it would be like a phase 1A kind of deal grant application. So while that property is going through historical review, the grant application is still pending.
Just to ask a question, so if somebody steps away from the program, and there was somebody interested in that, do you have to start all over, or can the property be replaced by the one that decided not to move forward?
I think it's specific on the properties that were in the original application. So it is, if that's the case, it's rather disheartening because there's a number of people who didn't want to get on board the first time around, and now that it's funded, they're calling saying, hey, we'd like to participate. And I'm saying, I'm sorry, we have to make another application. And that application either is twofold. One, when the next time there's another declared disaster that reaches the threshold that makes it eligible, like we have for the 2018 event, or it's a very competitive grant application, you're competing against everyone in the country. So that's really where we're at. But I think that's a good question. I think, let's see where we're at 2 weeks from now, and then we'll go from there. But my first conversation with our PEMA representative is it specific to the properties that were in the original application. Because if you look at the original application, the numbers that are in there that are awarded per each property are the appraisals we had done in 2019. It is very specific. Secondly, the roof project on the borough building is complete, so it's nice, no more leaks. A couple little issues, like you can see around the building, that we didn't get to this past winter. Painting will be done, this winter, like the back stairway, now that the roof isn't leaking, and in here. So we're all buttoned up. That project's complete. The back channel, there was a number of work completed in the back channel recently. As it was brought up at the past planning commission and council meetings, we're being very diligent and proactive in keeping up on that. It isn't do it once and forget about it. After the July 7th flood, a large gravel bar was reformed in our permit areas at the confluences of Painters Run and McLaughlin Run Creeks. Public Works were very diligent the past 2 weeks, removed all that sediment, so they're all wide open. So our guys know, I know I'm a pain in your side, but we're going to do this 2-3 times a year, and we're getting a habit of it, and they understand. We had our household hazardous waste collection event over the weekend, and it was pretty successful. 227 people participated with 22,000 tons of hazardous waste properly recycled and disposed of.
It's done already,
It was just on Saturday, so it was a really successful event in a while. So it was really good, and I thank everyone for participating.
Okay. Any questions for Joe? Okay. Under new business, we have on the agenda the McLaughlin Run flood control plan, recommendation from the planning commission to proceed with phase 1 of the long-term plan. Is anyone familiar with phase 1 of the plan? Councilor, I think everyone's familiar with it. What do we need to? We need an.
I think what it comes down to, just so like for the record, phase 1 was in essence from McLaughlin Run at the back channel all the way up to the culverts behind Gary Delight. The engineer's plan that was presented very thoroughly at the planning commission meeting proposes a levee wall, which was basically what's proposed for Warner Avenue, steel beam and concrete, legging wall.
Yeah, soldier beam and
Soldier,
lagging
yes.
wall.
Demonstrate
that
kind of there,
It would
some
come-
doesn't come through,
Yeah.
still has problem.
And then screw pumps on the existing storm system to lift the water from Raymond into the stream.
I would like to make a motion that we approve the idea, and time will tell whenever it get done. It'll be a long time.
I think what it comes down to, if the consensus of Borough Council is that we move forward with phase 1 upon the recommendation of the engineer and planning commission, that we get aggressive seeking grant funding. job. I think it's something that in a couple of years, we should keep to it. I think it's to be possible.
Yeah, I'm gonna send in a service order for the permitting for the project, because this is gonna fall into one of the categories of the shovel ready. If there's grants that become available in this year's infrastructure funding, you want to have a project that is approved by Army Corps and DEP. This isn't one of those that's a 2-month review. This is similar to the trash rack. It's gonna involve everybody, including the Army Corps for phase 1. That being the case, with new bugs and bunnies, there's a whole bunch of stuff on the checklist that we have to do. We're gonna give you that proposal so you can see it. It's budget time, so you can see it next year. We can get that into queue, because the next 2 years is gonna be critical as far as grant funding that comes available. This is one of those types, so it may even be an earmarked type project in the federal budget.
And if we get all the planning done, we have a good construction estimate, we have the permitting done, similar to the Baldwin Street FEMA project. Yeah, that's a substantial grant. That program would fund projects similar to this.
Correct.
So we're on the radar.
We can proceed with the grant unless if we approve it.
You need a plan. And this is for accepting the plan.
Absolutely. Well, the motion, I made a motion.
I'll second. We have a motion to proceed with the exploring of grants for phase 1 of the project presented by the engineer, and we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Thank you, looking forward to that. One other thing under new business I have, and I wanted to congratulate Mayor Copeland for being named the Pennsylvania Mayor of the Year. Well-deserved, and you represent our community with grace, and we appreciate everything that you do. And we will celebrate in the future when all of our council is here. We held off this month just to make sure that everybody could participate. So, thank you.
Thank all of you for making me look good.
Whoa, he didn't say any more new business.
There was nothing written down here.
Very important, the Rotary of Bridgeville South Ed is having their annual chili cook-off. That's why we did the sign approval. We are moving forward, and it will be October 17th from 12 to 4. No, there is not a Steeler game at that time. So there's a reason why we do it that day. But looking forward to it. It's going to be a great. We had 35 chilies last year. We're looking to beat that.
2 years ago, 35. You had no chilies last year.
Oh, we didn't have any chilies last year. No chilies last year. 2 years ago, we had chilies. 35 chilies. So we're looking to break the record and have a really, really nice time. So.
I just want to go on record with one more thing real quick. Been going to all departments, board meetings recently, and a little disappointed that they're not here again. Like that we on record that they want to increase their transparency and their accountability with us. We have with them, so I appreciate them doing the same.
Anything else under new business? With that, I'll accept the motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor?